Chapter 9. Scorpion. As it gets dark, Dad places the kindling in the fireplace with the bigger logs on top. "See if you can find some matches in the kitchen," he says. I open drawers and spot a rusty tin, which rattles when I pick it up. There's a pattern engraved on the outside which I trace with my finger. I lift the lid off. Inside is a pile of what looks like teeth. "Dad!" I shout, dropping the tin. Some of the teeth scatter onto the floor. They're curved and pointed. Not teeth, but claws. There must be at least 50 of them. Dad rushes in as I'm peering at them more closely. "Look at this," I say. "What kind of claws are they?" "I don't know. They look like they've been there for 100 years, he says, gathering them up in his hands and dropping them back into the tin. "Where were they?" I point to the drawer. "Come on," he says, putting them back and firmly shutting the drawer. I found some matches on the mantelpiece. As I turn, something catches my eye outside. "Look," I say, tugging Dad's arm. A green tinted light shines through the trees in the distance. It bobs up and down as if it's moving by itself. Dad checks the front door and bolts it tightly shut. "It's just a shepherd," he says. But there's something about the way the light moves that gives me the creeps. The bird makes a call that sounds like toot toot in the distance. It echoes off the hills around us. Back in the living room, Dad trickles kerosene on the logs and drops a lit match. The fire burns bright for a few seconds before calming down. We pull our chairs close and soak up the heat. Polly lies on my feet, Joey in my arms. "We'll sleep in here tonight," says Dad. Shadows dance against the stone mantelpiece. That's when I notice something crawling over the fireplace. Thick black bodies with curled tails and stingers on the ends. They appear from the cracks in the stones now lit up by the light of the flames. Scorpions. Heading away from the fire. In seconds they're all over the place. On the wall, the bottom of the fireplace, and around sleeping Polly's head on the floor. I jump on top of the chair with Joey in my arms, while Dad runs into the kitchen and returns with a brush and pan. Dad sweeps the scorpions up and drops them out of the back door. Some are as long as my palm. "They're not deadly or anything," says Grandma, who has come to see what all the commotion is about, "but they'll give you a nice sting if they feel threatened." She takes a pair of tweezers from her bag and gently picks up the scorpions around Polly one by one, lifting them by their stingers. "Coming through," she says as she dangles one in the air on her way out. I lay a twig beside a smallish scorpion, hoping it will crawl onto the bark so I can move it to the veranda. But it freezes and raises its stinger at the stick. I look around. Most of the scorpions have already hidden. I imagine them lurking under my pillow and shiver. "Well," says Dad, checking his chair before sitting back down. "Maybe we should sleep in the other room after all." "There are flies everywhere, and the other room smells like mould," I reply. "I'd rather sleep outside." "No way," says Dad, crossing his arms. "There are bears out there." "Get stung by scorpions or eaten by bears? Great choice. Thanks, Dad." His face crumples for a moment, and I feel a twinge of guilt, but only for a second. It was his stupid choice to bring us here. "I wish I had my tent," I say. "You do," says Dad. "I packed it for you." I stand and rummage through our luggage for my tent. I remember when Mum bought it for me 2 years ago for my birthday after I told her I wanted to be a wildlife photographer when I grew up. "Are you sure?" she had asked. You'll have to sit in a hide for days on end, waiting for an animal to appear." I finally find it and set it up at the back of the room, away from the fireplace. "I'm sleeping in here from now on." "Do you need anything else, love?" asked Grandma, passing me Mum's quilt. I shake my head. I don't feel like being around either her or Dad right now. I crawl inside with a torch and curl up with Polly. Making sure there are no bugs inside, I zip the tent up, cutting myself off from it all and praying a scorpion doesn't crawl underneath and sting me through the sleeping mat. I wrap the patchwork quilt around me. Mum hand-stitched the pictures to it, so when she was pregnant with me, she began with animals like elephants and tigers, but they turned out as grey rocks and orange dogs, so she moved on to moons and stars and clouds. Of the animals she tried stitching, only the snakes resemble themselves, and even they look a little bit like worms. I switch on the torch and the tent glows yellow. The last time I was in this tent, I was camping in our garden, trying to capture photos of nocturnal animals like echidnas. I remember the rustling of the Australian brush, and later Mum's humming coming from the porch. It was the song she would sing to me before we went to sleep. She had a beautiful voice, soft but clean-pitched. I poked my head out to tell her she was scaring the animals away, but then I saw she and Dad were dancing, their outlines silhouetted as they twirled, so I took a photo of them instead. I wonder if I'll ever be able to camp by myself again. The last time I did was before Mum went, before I was afraid of the dark.